it's just such a shift that there's not a leader and a co-leader or president and a vice president. Like that's not, I don't think, a true like eternal heavenly organization. Like you look in like, right, like Adam and Eve, like Eve was meant to be a helpmeet for him, which literally means like an equal partner.
Welcome back to the What Went Wrong podcast. I am your host, Tabitha Thorell, and today I have my privilege and honor of bringing on a very special guest, Kathryn Jones Lish. She is a best-selling author, 7-figure business owner. She just married the love of her life, and they have a beautiful daughter who is 16 months old. And I'm just so honored and cannot wait for you guys to hear her story. She is remarkable. But we all know that Kathryn did not start with all of those accolades. We all know that there was something that went wrong. So Kathryn, tell us what went wrong.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yeah, like what an interesting thing, I think, to dive right into. It's just such a different interview, right? Like,
Yep.
But I love what you're doing, and I love how you're digging deep, because I had a business coach that was like, if you don't pause and sit in what went wrong, you'll just do it over and over and over again.
Yes.
But I hate it. I hate it because you're like, I'm hurting. I don't want to sit in it. I don't want to look at it. Right. I don't want to figure out what's going on. I just want to move past it and bury it. And so, anyway, and so I love that this podcast exists, and I think it shouldn't be a podcast that people listen to. It should be a practice that everybody does. So I think it's just like so brilliant.
Yes, tell your friends. We need,
yes, listen, everybody do this and follow Tabitha.
Yes.
But yes, no, you're right. So my husband and I, we have a company called Together Game. We help people book partnerships, build out their partnership pool. It's been really amazing. We work for multiple 8-figure companies, 9-figure companies. We're the partnership team for Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi at Mastermind. And I think you hear that and you're like, oh, wow. And then you forget that everybody started as a nobody and knowing nothing. And I think the crazy thing is that the reality is, even when you have all these accolades, at the end of the day, you're still a nobody, and you still know, comparatively nothing. Like, your every day is just like a whole new thing. And so anyway, I just think this is like a beautiful concept. But when we were kind of talking before the show, and you're kind of prepping me a little bit for what we were going through, mm-hmm. about like what went wrong, they had actually like it became like very clear like what the moment was to share. And that being said, I could do 2,000 of these episodes and telling you other things that went wrong, but like I think there was one pinnacle one. And interestingly enough, like it had to do with business and also not, but I think that is like the journey of an entrepreneur. Like your business is just an extension, I think, of your self, of your worship, of your personality, of your flaws, of your greatness. Like it just is like an external manifestation of that. And so Travis and I, when we started dating, and I was just telling Tabitha before, we met on a dating app. For better or worse, you guys, we're just fighting for our lives out there. It was our only option left. We got married when we were 30. Though before we got married, we were dating, we met, we like fell for each other really, really fast. And then about 6 weeks in, all of a sudden we were both like, like, oh my gosh, like we really like each other, and we were terrified of like what that meant. I think it was the first time that both of us were like, oh my gosh, is this real? Like, for real, could I end up with this person? And when we met, Travis had some businesses, I had my business, and for on the outside, it seemed like we were going really different paths, and it was different, right? Because we got together when we were 30. It wasn't like, oh, these are my hopes and dreams. It was like, no, like, this is what I'm doing. I have a decade into doing this. Like, this is how I live my life. This is what this looks like. It's not like this was what I hope. It's like, this is what's happening. And on the outside, it kind of looked like that was different, right? Like, well, I'm pursuing this. And he was like, well, I want to pursue this, and blah, blah, blah. And like what our dreams were. It was the reason we fell in love with each other, but also like our dreams and our visions for what we wanted to do, build, become, were just so huge that like there genuinely wasn't room for both. And And so like literally every single day, like if you go back and read my journal, I mean, first of all, God bless my insanity, but it was like the common theme was I'm in love with him and I'm terrified because I don't know the implications of what that means. Like, will I give up everything? And will he have to give up everything? And like, do I love him if I do that? And does he love me? And but like, how does it work? But like, and like building businesses, and I think so many people probably listen to this are the same, is it's not building a business that is what you're doing. It's like this calling, this like insatiable desire to create that like you cannot turn off.
Yep.
And like it's just a part of you. And I actually think that it's a divine part of you, right? Like if you read the Bible, the very first thing God tells us is, hey, I'm a creator. And like Jesus tells us, like, become like me, become like the Father. And the very first things he tells us is, I create worlds.
Yep.
And so like I think the fact that our souls are like, go do stuff, change the world. Like we make fun of millennials for it, but like I think it's real, right? It's like I just want to save the world. And sometimes we're idiots about it. I'll be honest about that. Like I literally am that person. But like I am a millennial, but I think that it's a very God-given trait, right? To like want to build and create and do and all these things. And so it felt so much more like as we were trying to like merge these visions of like what it would look like, the merging, like we learned like wasn't an option. It was like this thing. And so I remember Travis one day, like it was the craziest like vibe because we were seriously in love with each other and it was heavy because we didn't know what it meant, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember we like went on a walk one day and Travis, you've met Travis. He is like, if my energy on a scale of 1 to 10 is a 10, his is a 20. I mean, I love humans and I'm an introvert. Like, I'm like, what are we doing this weekend? I hope nothing, you know? And he's like, who should we invite over? And I'm like, okay, you know, we're good for each other. Well, I don't know. He's probably just good for me, you know? Because I'm like, let's just stay home.
Oh, no,
but
you're good for him.
and so you could tell his soul was just like, just like weighed down. So I was like, all right, dude, what's up? I'm like, what's on your heart, you know? And so he said, he was like quiet and he's like, I don't exactly like know how to say it. And I said, okay, which is like a scary thing to hear, you know, and you're like, I'm in love with you. And like, are you breaking up with me right now? I don't know what's happening.
Right.
You're like, okay. And he was just like, Kathryn, like, I know I'm in love with you and I don't know what it means. And I said, okay, tell me more. And he said, the story I'm telling myself is this. And as a quick pause, that's the only reason we got through, because it wasn't you're doing this and I'm doing this. It was the story I'm telling myself is this.
Love that. I love that.
Oh, he's so awesome.
And hold on, I gotta pause. You can tell that you guys were mature, like you were older. Because if you were 20, okay, I'm just gonna
for better or worse, right? For better or worse. Like we've been to therapy, we've been through things, right?
Yes.
Like
so he knew how to relationships. Yes. Okay, so he told you the story that he was telling.
Like the story I'm telling myself is this: is that like us getting together, there is going to be a Batman and there is going to be a Robin. And he's like, and if I'm being honest, like where we're at these points in our lives, like it's not deciding who is who. He's like, you're already wearing the Batman suit, which I guess is open to interpretation, right? Depending on which metrics you're measuring, right? He's like, you're already wearing the Batman suit. And for him, it was business, right?
Right, yeah.
And so he was like, you're already wearing the Batman suit, which means that every day I fall more in love with you. It's like me realizing that for your Batmanness to continue, like I have to be Robin. And he's like, and it's not that you don't look great in black. You look great in black. And he's like, and he's like, I know there's so many layers to this, right? Like ego, pride, like blah, blah. And he's like, but I also, again, think there's divinity. And like, my soul wants to build too. And I am building, right? And he goes, I also just want to be Batman. And he's like, so what does it mean? What does it mean? How do we do this? What does this look like? And he's like, because I see what you're doing in the world and it's good. And he's like, and I see what I'm doing in the world and it's good. And he's like, but if we actually want to move forward in being together and trying to have a family and trying to have a relationship, like what is currently happening, just like 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. Like it's not going to work. And he's like, so the story I'm telling myself is that like you and I feel pretty impossible. And then again, this is why we made it, is because he said, that's the story I'm telling myself. Is that true? which again, I just was literally like, your emotional intelligence is the most attractive thing I've ever
Yeah.
encountered in my entire life, you know?
Yeah, there's
But I
girls
remember,
right now that are so jealous listening to this
I
because
know, I'm telling you what, I had to go through some few crazies, and granted him too, but like,
yeah.
anyway, but and so I just remember him saying that, and I just said, and I remember just being like, I didn't know what to say because I didn't know the answer. And so I think I learned early on, if you don't know what to say, just listen. So I just kept saying, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. And like, I literally was just praying, like, God, like, put in our hearts how this can work. And like, what does this look like? And it feels like it's so crazy, Tyler, because when I talk about this now, it feels almost so trivial. It's like we were such children, like our
Right.
view is like so short-sighted to be like, well, he's running an e-com business and I'm running an info business and we both can't be CEOs. Like, it feels so stupid, right? Like,
Right.
and but in the moment, it was like so tied to our identity, and that's where
Exactly.
we got it wrong,
Right.
right? And like
It was your
that
life. It was your life.
exactly, it was our life. And like, when you talk about like what went wrong, that was it. Like, what went wrong is the fact that we, despite being like very openly God followers, Jesus
Right.
lovers,
Oh
like
yeah.
family centric, right? And I think, I don't think like I can, like, I feel grateful to like be able to like go before God and be like, I know I'm an idiot, but like I am actually trying pretty dang hard, right? Like
Right.
of all my fumbled attempts, like I am trying, you know? And yet still, right? Like everything is so loud, and you speak on a stage or two, and you're like, oh my gosh, well, if I don't keep speaking on stage, what will people think of me? And if I disappear, then what will happen? And I'm employing all these people, and they have children, and so I can't stop. I have to go, you know. And like
Yep.
my life was my business.
Yep.
And I even remember being like, when Travis and I first started dating, I'd be like, I don't understand how you're not working all day. Like, what do you mean you're gonna go play basketball with your friends at 6 p.m.? Like, how do you not have stuff to do? Like, I don't get it. What do you mean, you know? But again, he was so much better than me in that front. But like at the end of the day, though, like the true thing was our identity was not rooted in the fact that we were children of God, period. It was, oh, I'm a business owner, and quote, I'm a business owner, and we're going to take over the world by ourselves. Blah, blah, blah. It was
Right.
like so crazy. It's like insane, right? And so because our identities were so tied to these businesses, it also really like kind of started to have this this conversation that was pretty ongoing, right? Which like wasn't just like, oh, our businesses can't merge, but it became one of those things which, like, again, I love Travis for being so vulnerable, but he's like, why am I so intimidated that you're making more money than me right now?
Right.
And for me, I'm like, as a woman, like, what is it about me that makes every boy that I ever date feel crazy? Like,
Right.
every single one, you know what I mean? And so, like, then we're having these, like, identity crises, gender role wise, right? And, like, even what does it even mean? And does it mean anything? And, like, all these
Right.
different things. And I can't, it's so, again, like, looking back, you're like, oh my gosh. And like, I'll get emotional, like, looking back. I mean, we've been married for 3 years and we have like the most amazing baby, like amazing baby. And when we got pregnant, I got like immediately sick. Well, we found out I was pregnant on a Wednesday. 6 days later, I was throwing up. A week after that, I was like bedbound, like throwing up 10 plus times a day.
Oh,
I got
wow.
HG. If you've heard of HG, it literally is like, it's shortened term. It's like Latin. I should know what it's called, but it's like hyperdermium gravidum. It's literally Latin for
Right.
excessive vomiting in pregnant woman. And it was like so
Oh my
active.
God.
I'm like losing weight. I can't do anything. Like, I can't speak without throwing up. I can't roll over without throwing up. Like, I can't keep food down. It was so bad. And like anything in my business that like wasn't automated, it just died. Like, I just went off the grid for a year, like literally just trying to stay alive. And like, I remember like, I just like in bed, and my, you know, productive creator soul is feeling like insane. I'm feeling insane, right? Like,
Yes.
I can't read. I can't like look at a screen or else I'll throw up. Like, I can't open my eyes or else I'll throw up. I can't talk because I'll throw up. Like, I'm just like in my brain, you know, like it's just
Oh
like so
wow.
crazy. And I remember I was probably like, I was in like the height of it. So like, I was probably like 10, 12 weeks along, you know, like, or maybe like 12 or 13 weeks along. And I just remember I was just crying, and I got the words out. I was like, I feel so crazy. I was like, I feel trapped. And that's what I told Travis. And he said, Kathryn, he like took my face in his hands. I just love him so much. And he's like, Kathryn, he's like, you are doing the most important thing that you could ever be doing right now. And like, it was just like such a gift, not only to like have a husband who would say that to you, you know,
Yeah.
but like that God, like, it was like a mind and heart moment. Like it made sense in my brain. I felt it in my heart. And like, and it was just so true, right? Like the metric that matters genuinely is like, am I in good standing with God? Am I in good standing with my partner? And am I in good standing with my children? And
Yep.
like, that's it. Like, and so like having had that moment, and then I look back 4 or 5 years ago when we were dating, and it's like the businesses, right?
Right.
It's like, oh my gosh, like Kathryn, Travis, like, how did we almost forget? Like, how did you almost forget what the whole point was? The whole point of why you started the business in the first place, which was genuine. I've even been loud about this, right? Like, was like, I came from a family of 8 kids. I'm obsessed with my parents. Somehow they're just like, there's 8 kids and we all like each other. I don't know how they did it. They're just like so cool. And like, and I just knew, and my mom is like next level. Like, my mom comes to town, my friends cancel their plans to hang out with her. Like, she's just awesome. And she deserves every praise she gets. She's just good, you know? And so I always wanted to grow up to be like my parents. And my mom, like, she was just my hero, you know? And my mom, she had 8 kids, and it was just like a different generation. Like, you just like weren't having online businesses in the 80s and 90s. Like, that just like wasn't an option.
Mm-hmm.
And so like for me, like as I started to kind of venture into my young adulthood and like, what does this mean? I knew so clearly in my soul that I wanted to be a mother. It felt like so true to my soul. It felt like very divine, right? Like, God is a father. I believe we have a heavenly mother, right? Like, we have heavenly parents. I believe that. And also it was this pull to like, I've got to take over the world. We got to save people. We got to help people. We got to do something, right?
Yeah.
And like this, and you had mentioned, I love this wording too, like almost this conflict of like, how do those two work together? And for me, it was like, how do I have simultaneous impact both inside and outside of my home? And like, genuinely, that is why I started geeking out on the internet. I learned, literally, I was in college, I was like sharing a room in a bunk bed, and I learned that like making money online was not a scam. And I remember being like, maybe if I'm not an idiot about this thing and I structure this properly, like maybe I could do it, you know? And
Right.
like, again, like talk about the divinity of timing, that was like 9 years prior to like me finding Travis. He was like, you're gonna need some reps in that business thing, girl, before we like actually make this going. But like, I think I look back to that moment between Travis and I where it was like, who's going to be Batman? Who's going to be Robin? What does this look like? And like, blah, blah, blah. And our identities were so tied to business and all this stuff. And like, how crazy is it, Tabitha? Like, it makes me weep right now to like how too did either of us think, like our perception in that moment 5 years ago in that conversation was that Batman was the person running the business and Robin was the person with the kids. And you meet my little baby and you think, how in the world did that role somehow become a Robin role? It makes no sense when you just like realize just like the goodness of the soul that God gave you to be in your home, you know?
Yes.
And so and so I do think there's this like, I mean, we are iterating all the time. We're co-founders in this business that we have now, right? Like,
Yes.
anyway, long story short, we figured it out, fell in love, got married. It was like amazing. And even still, we like continued with our own businesses, even through us like being pregnant, even after we got pregnant. When I was pregnant again, I like went off the grid for a year. But what I could do is I could write. Like when I could eventually like function in the world, I could write. And so, and I'd gotten like really good at partnerships. Trav was getting really good at partnerships in his e-com stuff. And like, again, talk about like divinity, our like practices started becoming each other's. And it just like made sense. And that, and I'd kind of been gunning for it for a while. I was like, when it's the right time, join forces, you know? And he was actually doing cool stuff. Like his company had got bought out by this VC firm and they like brought him on. So he was doing like all this like really fun, shiny stuff, you know? That's again, talk about God, like our baby was born and his company was really generous to give him paternity leave. He had a month. And like he was like 3 or 4 days from going home. And he was just like, and again, like what a blessing that like we could even have this conversation. Like I just think about like my dad. He like wasn't even able to think this way. But like Travis just like, how am I expected to go back and like miss her life? Like how could that be what is the norm, you know?
Yep.
And he was just like, he's like, I can't do that. I can't let somebody tell me where I need to be in one. And he's like, it's time. And I was like, yes! I was like, let's go! So awesome. So Lucy was like 6 months old. And we said, okay, like, we're joining forces. And so, like, it seriously, like, hasn't even been a year, but it is crazy. And again, like, talk about divine, right? Like, he was kind of doing it on his own. I was doing it on his own. We both had a lot of success on our own.
Yeah.
But like, I think there's just like so much goodness in like bringing it back to what went wrong, right? Like, we got really clear on identity and what actually mattered. It's like,
Yes.
are we good with God? Are we good with each other? Are we good with our kiddos? Like, have we made, like, you know, are we good there? And everything else, anything else is to build those three purposes. Like, that's it.
Yes.
And to help people within those build those purposes for themselves, you know?
Yes.
Like, that's really why we named our business the Together Game. Like, how can we help people work together? So what they win is like, yes, sure, money, but what they win is the resources and time to be together. You play together, you win. Yes. Literally the concept of togetherness with God, with your children. And it has just been like so fun. Like, talk about ego, right? Like right now, genuinely, like when you look at our unique abilities, respectfully to myself, I am not a CEO. I'm just not a CEO. Travis is the perfect CEO. That is like everything his skill sets are made for. I'm like, I am a CMO. I'm a marketer. Like, through and through. That is like my bread and butter. I dream about it. I'm kid you not. Like, I like geek out. I can't get enough. I'm listening to podcasts, blah, blah. And Travis is just like barf, you know, like he's like big picture vision. Awesome. I can like organize people here and there. And like, if you would have told me 4 years ago that I was going to be so happy, like relieved to not be the CEO of a company, I would have been like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like, are you kidding me? But again, like, identity, right? It was like, well, yes, it's my company and I'm in charge and I built this. And you're like, no, Kathryn, you're an idiot. Like, God is building this and he's being kind enough to give you stewardship over people's attention and some dollar bills and a problem that you have a solution for right now.
Right.
And you know what? You're going to die, sis. And like, it's all going to go back. And so, like, learn what you need to learn, become the person you need to become. And I just, like, I seriously just feel so grateful. And so, again, we're, like, learning what it means. And, like, right now what it means is that, like, well, I mean, like, I don't know, I'll tell you, right? Like, we're, like, thinking about building our family again. And so, like, trying to have another kid, we just know I go down for the count. Like, I just go down. And so, like, right now, it just actually, like, doesn't make sense for, like, me to be, like, the forefront of the business right now. Just like literally, I'm going down. I know it. Like, unless like God like parts a sea for me, which like literally I'd be so grateful. Right. But like, I'm not exactly. And so it's like, but like, what a gift, right? To be like, okay, like the iteration of what Together Game means for us right now. Yeah. And like, this is only possible because we figured our sheesh out. And like, for the what went wrong, we like realized what identity actually meant, right? Is like, we both wake up between 4 and 5. We get up together and like, I work from 4:30 till 9. And then Travis has like the normal working hours, like 9 to 4 or 5, right? Uh-huh. And we just, because Travis needs to be the one that's like a normal human available. And me, I'm like, I'm going to die. I mean, like, I hope I get pregnant tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, yes. I literally hope, I hope I'm barfing tomorrow, you know? Right. But part the Red Sea God. But like, I am like so not in the limelight right now, right? Yeah. And it's crazy how it just doesn't matter. Like, my soul is just like relieved that I am like in my role. Like, I wake up, I'm so pumped. I just get to do marketing crap all the time. I'm like, and that is the beautiful thing about marketing. It's like, you can preset that stuff. I'm like getting ready for the storm. Yeah. It's like my prep for marketing. I'm like, get pregnant. Like, I'm here going, you know? And like, and I'm telling you what, like, Travis is just like shining and he's going to this huge ritzy event this week in Newport Beach and like all this different stuff. And I can't tell you like what a gift from God it is that like, it's not that I don't care that I'm not there because it'd be fun, but it is so crazy. I think when like you both opt in to what it means to be tied to God and tied to each other, that like, I don't feel like I am missing out because our unit is there. Yep. And like 4 or 5 months ago, I was the one that spoke on a stage in front of 7,000 people. Yep. And like, he wasn't mad and he wasn't like, oh, low is me because Kathryn got the stage. You know what I mean? It's just like, just like what a gift. And I think, gosh, like we were so close. Like it seriously was like God, period. There's like no other, like just him being like, you dear sweet children, I'm gonna help you right now, you know?
Right.
But like what went wrong, like we were so close to like missing the mark on each other, like giving up on each other because of a stupid difference in the fact that I wanted to build an information-based business and he wanted to build an e-com business. It is like literally, I'm embarrassed to say that right now. And so we almost gave up on each other. And can you imagine, Tabitha, like let's say we did give up on each other. We went and found somebody who was going to be both of our Robins, right?
Right.
Comparatively. And like, what? We missed the point of life. Like,
Right.
what are you doing, Kathryn? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean your children are a Robin responsibility, you know?
Right.
And so I just like genuinely feel so grateful because like the iteration, like for me working in the morning, Trav working at night, it was different 4 months ago. Like it's just, but it doesn't matter. It's so fluid because like he's as bought into being with Lucy, our baby, as I am to being with Lucy. And like
Right.
he's as bought into us growing our family as I am. And I'm just as bought in to like making this literally the best partnership company in the entire world as he is. Like,
Right.
and so I just, it doesn't, it's a, it genuinely is like a group effort of like Travis, me, God, and I would seriously say our baby. Like
Yeah.
it's different. Like there's different times where like literally right now I'm on this like show with you and she was like a little bit sad that I wasn't going to the park with her.
Yeah.
And like I like can't wait till she gets older. Like I think there's like some really real conversations to have with her and our future children to be like, are you also in on what we're trying to do here? And
Yeah.
like are we working toward this same thing? Our identities, are we all in the right place? And again, if not, then what are we doing?
Right.
We're like missing the mark. So I just yeah, I could like say like so many stories about like what went wrong. Like, oh, I was an idiot and I sold this product this way. And like, oh, that was a $300,000 mistake, which like I seriously could tell you that one too. And like, oh, I like went to the hospital and had ulcers. So I was too stressed about the stupid thing. I could tell you like so many stories, but like the one that like if we hadn't been blessed by God to figure that out, my whole life would be different.
Yeah.
Everything in my life would be different. And I just like think like thank you God for softening our hearts, and genuinely thank you Travis for like being just like so I don't know the correct adjective because I think smart like undercuts it, but I'll use smart enough to say like this is the story I'm telling myself. Is this true?
It's
Because
wisdom. Like
it's
it's not
yeah,
being about knowledge, because I think smart is with knowledge.
yeah,
It's he was wise probably because of what he's experienced, and that was an advantage that you guys had. You
yeah,
know, being a little bit older. And I love that you were saying, like, when you were talking about like you both wanted to be Batman.
mm-hmm.
And I think about my husband and I, because our personalities are complete opposite. And I actually have more of the, like, what you'd say, like, leader, you know, like go out and get it, and like CEO and do all that stuff. And my husband's more reserved. He's more like one to one. He's just really
Mm-hmm.
cool with, like, he's great with one conversations. You guys will meet him and like you'll fall in love with him. Every guy has a bromance with him because he is just so humble. Like,
Yeah,
I think that's why men like him, because
mm-hmm.
he's not prideful. He doesn't try to boast. He's just not that. He just doesn't do that. And you know, I'm like speaking and loud and talking all of these things. And so when people see that, they think then I'm going to like lead the family. You know, there's a lot of women
Yeah,
that are domineering, and it's like I had to check myself when we were, you know, dating, because I wanted to raise the kids. And
mm-hmm.
for us, where we were at, he had to be the provider, and he was
Yeah,
missing the moments with the kids. But I remember laying on the trampoline and just crying out to God and being like, I want my husband to be here with them. But
mm-hmm.
what he and his brain was like, provide, provide, provide. Like that's how he was raised.
Right,
And but like I told you, like he loved kids and he wanted these kids. And so it was like I had to step up and figure out, how can I start building something? And here I
yeah,
am over a decade later. And I love that you said, you know, like it emerged beautifully when you finally surrendered, because that's what, like, Tracy and I finally done. Like I had this
mm-hmm.
coaching business and we kind of had real estate together, but he was kind of the forefront of that. And then he farms. And I
Mm-hmm.
finally surrendered and said, okay, God, let me do my skill set of like coaching and helping and speaking in that area. But can I do it in real estate? Can I be the CEO of the real estate? And honestly, this was an idea 4 years ago. and the year that you spoke at Funnel Hiking Live the first time, he was there.
Mm,
And I was afraid because
yeah.
I didn't know that as well. And I like, was like, guard up, like I'm going to do what I know.
Yeah.
And just this past 3 months, it's been like, not, and even just like the last 3 weeks, like we want to show families like what you're doing as far as like we want the family vision to be together
Mm,
instead of like mom and dad go to work and go do that thing and we miss them. Like we're doing this together as a family, like what we're doing to move forward, and like yes, your identity and for the kingdom. And I talk a lot about identity because that is the thing that will hold people back, is the
yeah.
identity. And I think your case in point with the what went wrong a lot of times has to do with identity, how we see
Mhm.
ourselves and where we're at and where we're gonna be and what that means and what people, how they see us. And we could do a whole podcast on just people pleasing, right? Like
Oh my
what
gosh, yeah.
that identity is of that, but how you spoke of your mom
Mm,
is what I want my kids to speak of me. So even as you're talking, I have this gut check of like, am I enough? And is this
right.
going to be enough? And I heard today, I was listening to TG Jakes and he said, beware of the person that says they are enough, because
Mm.
then they don't turn to God. And I'm like, well, I'm always going to be that then, because I never feel enough.
No
Like,
problem for me. Oh my
yeah,
gosh. Well, I think speaking again to like the wisdom of Travis, I'm like so grateful. Like months later, we kind of like brought up this conversation again. He's like, remember when we were talking about Batman and Robin? And I said, yeah, of course. And he's like, you know what? I think I just realized. He's like, I think if we're being honest with ourselves, like neither of us actually want to be Batman. He goes, he works in the dark. He's
yeah,
like, Jesus said, I'm the light of the world. He's like, the only way we're going to do this is if we try to be with Jesus.
yeah,
That's it. And just like, it's just such a shift that there's not a leader and a co-leader or president and a vice president. Like that's not, I don't think, a true like eternal heavenly organization. Like you
right.
look in like, right, like Adam and Eve, like Eve was meant to be a helpmeet for him, which literally means like an equal partner.
Yes.
And I just think there's so much that like we just all have to learn from each other in terms of like what does it mean to um to have impact both inside and out of our home in a way that helps us to become like God. And yeah, I think again, it's like, I mean, case in point, like my sweet baby, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm on this podcast. Should I get on this podcast? She's sad, right? Like, oh, am I here? Am I there? And I think like, again, like what a gift. Like, I just feel so grateful that like tonight I can like get on my knees and I can go over the day with God. And I can say like, God, like, gosh, like that moment when I forgot to lock the door and Lucy walked in and she cried because she went away, like that sucked. Like, I actually hated that. Like, can you coach me? Because like it feels important to be on this call with you right now.
Right.
And like I hated that. So like, God, can you just please coach me? And I just feel like can we even just believe that there's a God who listens and answers us? Like it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
shocking. And so I like Travis and I like by no means pretend to even have anything figured out. I mean, we're one kid in, you're five. I guess we like need to pay you to teach us, but like that what I am grateful for is that like God is so willing to teach us if we
Yes.
listen and act. So God
I
bless the broken road. And
Oh, yes, amen. And I'll give you a little wisdom, because when I had my first three, I want to even like getting a babysitter would like tear me up. And like I
yeah,
had guilt all of the time. And and God softened my heart, because I always just had like this guilty conscience and this conflict. And I was just having like, just like you, like you want to pull here and pull there, and like you want to have impact, but you want to be there. And the one thing that he whispered to me was, your kids are a gift. So why
mm,
aren't you letting other people open them and experience them as well? Like it was like I was like holding them so tight
hmm,
that I wouldn't even like have a babysitter who was amazing come and
right,
watch them. And when they would come over, they would bring so much joy to that person who got to watch them.
yeah.
And then I got to go and be refreshed and give my gifts in a different way and be uplifted,
Mm,
knowing that they got to do that, you know? And so it was opening my heart and allowing other people to experience my children where I was almost like hoarding them.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it was a little bit of a pride thing. Like, I can do this. I can raise them. And I had to shift that to like, okay, but when I'm with them, those moments are the moments that I am meant to be with them. And the
Right.
moments that I'm not with them, I'm not meant to be with them. And if I believe in the guardian angels that
Mhm.
will protect them, and if I am the light, like right now, my kids are waiting for me, to take them to gym, and that's okay. And so
Yeah.
it's finding that balance of like, yeah, it sucks. And when they cry for you and you want to be there, but you're here, and it's all important, it's all relative. But yes, are you to choose your family and your to God and your relationships first? Absolutely. But if those are good, and you
Yeah.
have a good relationship, then it's okay to allow other people and even
Mhm.
Travis, like your husband, to
Yeah.
experience that without you because they experience things different with your kids.
Mhm.
And when we put it too much, then that's when like the pride comes in. Or for me personally, and I had to be like when my daughters are like, Daddy, Daddy, we want Daddy. And I'm like, I'm with you all the time, you
Yeah.
know? And it's like a slap in the face. But I'm like, no, because they want him and they deserve him too, and
Yeah.
there's enough joy and love. And so I can see the love for your kids. And I know there's listeners on here that, parents or, fathers and moms, and they might feel guilt like, I missed a lot of moments with my kids and I wish that I had that. It's never too late.
Yeah.
I was 22 years old when I reconciled with my dad. God gave me an opportunity to live with him. Like, my parents were married, but he traveled for work and I was able to go on site with him and live with him and
Mhm.
mend a broken relationship of literally since my whole life. And so I was
Mhm.
22. So there's always redemption when you put God
Mhm.
first. And so there's people on here I know that are like, I wish I could have done it when they were 16 months. It doesn't matter if they're 16 or
Yeah.
26. Like, there's always redemption there. And so I don't usually do this in the podcast, but I just feel like this is such a hot topic because we do want our best for our kids, and we're providing for them and want a better life. And that's why we developed our program that we're doing, is because we want families to go alongside together and leave legacy. We talk at legacy wealth, but it's a wealth of abundant love, it's
Mhm.
time, it's experiences, it's more than just money. And what you guys do with your business is phenomenal, bringing people together so that they can advance for the kingdom. I absolutely love it. I love you and Travis. Where can they find you? I mean, you might be hiding, but where can they find Travis? And like, where can
Listen, well, and here's the thing, I'm stocking up on my marketing material, so you'll be seeing my face. I'm doing some
Okay,
pre-order
okay, okay.
stuff. But just the best place to find us is Instagram, togethergame_, is where
Awesome.
you can come be friends with us. So
Awesome.
can't wait.
Well, thank you so much. And we'll have links in the bio for this episode. But again, audience, thank you for listening. Kathryn, thank you for your wisdom and being so vulnerable, because I know that that's not easy and I appreciate it. And I know the audience appreciates it. But if you're listening on here, you might be in the season where it's a struggle, and maybe you are missing your kids, or how do you build the business, or maybe you and your husband are having the identity crisis and you're just battling this. Remember, you're exactly where you're meant to be. And you're going through what you need to go through to get to where you want, as long as you keep taking that step forward. Because we all know that wherever there's a what went wrong, it will lead to a what went right if you just keep going. Until next time, thanks, guys.